Hello. So these are my parents. You want to introduce yourselves again? It's
Hi, I'm Brian Callen.
I'm Carol Callan.
all right. And today we're gonna talk about how I kind of went through the process of having a learning disability, but I don't think I have one. But I'm curious to know like more about the process of what happened when I was younger. So I have just a couple questions to ask you. So like, when did you guys? I don't know if the word "discover" is the best way, but when did you guys like learn about me having like a learning disability, or when did you guys come up with the idea that I possibly had one?
I think when you were 3 years old.
Okay, why?
Well, at that point, we saw a lot of activity. You were very hyperactive, jumped around a lot on the bed. And I think there was some disruption. You were in preschool
Okay.
for 2 years, and there were some comments from the teachers that you would get out of your seat, or you would try to be doing something else while the others are all sitting down. And so, like, you really weren't paying attention, or you were just doing your own thing. You were very strong, a strong thinker, but I think it interfered with the other kids' learning. So we had to get what's called a SEEIT teacher, which was a special education teacher that was Angelica, and she would follow you, meaning she'd stay with you to make sure that you were well behaved and didn't shout out or didn't take any toys away from kids or things like that. You were just really, now that I think of it, you were just a normal kid, I think. But the parents, some parents, and some teachers would always make comments and complain. We were very offended, but
So
what do you think, Brian? Do you
Okay.
want to say anything?
Oh,
about that?
yeah. I think the whole thing is a bunch of cow manure. I don't think you ever had a problem. What she's talking about is you were 2.5 years old. Within a few months, right after 9/11, at that same early preschool, Montessori school, and we got a phone call that you had destroyed somebody's project. And the project that they called about was one of the children set up a tower of blocks, and you knocked them over.
Okay.
Now I found that like not unusual 2.5-year-old behavior, but they found it very odd, and I think they were really overblown. I think it was also the height of everybody has an issue type of thing, and I never went along that you really had much of any problems in that nature. I thought they were normal things. So they got you a person to help you with sensory touching things and
Oh, yeah.
holding.
So that was an OT.
Molding foam and plastic. The touch things.
You had a few therapists that were.
So these are the
assigned.
services that I
the
got. So I got
services that you
actual
got were-
services?
So you
Yeah.
got services, but the thing is,
Can I tell what they are though? They were.
Well, you
there
can in a
was just-
second.
Yeah.
Well, whatever that you had, it was overblown, and unfortunately for you, I think, it not only went on from that preschool level, but due to I think poor advice.
Okay.
Your mom pursued it all the way into elementary school, which
Okay.
you definitely did not need.
So what kind of services did I get, I guess, to go along with the learning disability thing?
Well, the first thing that they gave you when you were in preschool was called a SEEIT teacher, which was a special
Like an
education
aide?
teacher. No,
So-
she was actually a special education teacher. Her name was Angelica. I don't know if
Okay.
you remember.
I don't
and
actually.
she was assigned to you just to be your shadow, to make sure that you were in line or you weren't.
Redirected to
Okay.
your coloring or whatever you were doing at that age.
To keep me on
stay
like
focused,
track.
to stay focused.
Yeah.
And you liked her a lot.
And you were,
loved
she was a
you.
wonderful person.
Uh-huh.
And then you had a group thereafter of other people. But I found that I am not trained in that field, but I really didn't feel you really needed any of that stuff because you're extremely bright. I think the word that best describes you is the one that still fits you today. You were very strong-willed and independent.
Okay.
Which I think are good qualities.
Yes.
Sure.
But you were strong-willed and independent at 2.5, 3.5, 5.5, 8.5, 20.5. You haven't changed.
But at the same point, you were very defiant.
So,
at
like,
many
what was
ti-
it?
like,
So you're saying, like, me being defiant was
you
a
would
challenge?
You wouldn't listen. Yeah, very big
that was the
challenge.
most-
Very big challenge. I mean, we had like from when you were very little to not running in the street or watching about. Remember, we had the pool. We were worried about that.
So-
And then there was. I mean, one other thing I can think of. I lost my train of thought.
Well, I
uh,
mean,
Your mom and I are at odds about this whole thing over the years. I felt that I always did feel that you didn't really need it.
Okay.
I also felt that because she had some of that, or it pursued you so long, or it kept mushrooming into longer and longer terms, that it gave you a little stigma with the other students that they felt that you were odd. Or had something wrong with you because you had 8 in the classroom. Here you are in the first grade, second grade, third grade.
even in that,
Even at that age.
I definitely
Even
don't
in
remember.
in third grade was the last year you had it.
But anyway,
Really?
what happened was people thought you were a little odd, or the parents get that assumption. What's wrong with this kid that they have to have a special person with them in the classroom?
So-
They thought that right away.
I think that your problems were greatly exaggerated. I think your problems didn't exist the way they were portrayed.
Okay.
And I think you didn't need it. I think it hurt you in the long run. I don't think it was worthwhile. The only thing that you had that was a disability is when you were born, you had severe torticollis. And you had to go through that.
You mean my
A
neck?
physical-
Your neck,
yeah,
your neck was
physical
very
thing,
twisted,
right.
and that was a physical thing, and that took a couple of years of home therapy and the neck bending and all that stuff to get you right, and you could see your neck is straight. So you came through that, but I think psychologically you were really a normal kid, other than
Well-
being again strong-willed and independent.
Okay,
Well,
and
learning-
I would want to say that it was more oppositional. Like if I said yes, you said no. If I said up, you said down. So with me, because I was working as a teacher while Daddy was the stay-home dad and took care of you, I think that you had a closer bond with Dad as well as Justin. But you were very oppositional. That was definitely a word that I could say, because I mean it came to the point where even when you were a little older, you insisted on sitting in the front seat, and we had that big problem of
I'm
me.
going to I'm sorry. I translate the oppositional. You were a little spoiled. You
Very
first,
spoiled.
First child. You were spoiled. You're still spoiled.
We gave in for everything.
And that's more Dad's fault, because again, I was the stay-at-home. You were the little girl, the princess, and you were treated very, very well. And then as you got older, you become demanding. You're the kind of person that says, "I want to go now. I needed a deck of Pokemon cards. Take me down to the store. I need 2 cards." And,
Immediate gratification.
8 out of 10 times, I would say yes. So
Right.
that those are things that
That
I would not do again.
Right.
It's a learning process also for parents, and I wouldn't do all those things again, because you're still the same way. You need it now and things like that. Even though you're maturing and turning into a fine young lady.
So what was the? Hold on. Okay. What
I
were
just
you
want to
gonna
say one more thing, and I will agree with Dad that because when you were very young, and I thought that you needed more help and guidance and control in the classroom, that did make a stigma with you.
You think that hurt me in the end?
Yeah, I do, because the other parents, weren't as wanting to, the other kids didn't want to really play with you, or
one
their
liked me.
parents didn't want to be with, stay with you because maybe
The
you were-
stigma I was talking
it was
about.
like
That, people are funny.
because
and
why did she have somebody
they
following
don't know what's
her?
wrong
What
with
was
you
wrong
and
with
all that kind
her?
of
So would you guys say that it wasn't necessarily a learning disability, but it was a behavioral problem?
Yes,
Would you
that's
say it's
exactly
the problem?
it. It wasn't a big-
because there's a
you
big
never
difference
had a learning
between like someone who has a learning disability doesn't necessarily have like a psychiatric problem. That's one thing that I think you might think it is, but it's not the same. It's like just having trouble with like grasping stuff, or like having like a barrier between like how to learn, and they need to like remove the barriers. But you don't think it's like that at all?
Well, again, they started with you with sensory things. It was about touching.
Touchy?
Well, yeah,
things.
you were
that
always-
that was all the things that they worked with you when you,
You
were
would
very
touch,
young.
just
know.
on your own, which I guess
I
all
thi- I-
kids
I-
do, but you were just more excessive.
Would you say that people thought I had like ADHD?
Well, you were very
Attention
active.
deficit
You-
hyperactive
yeah.
disorder?
You-
Hyperactivity disorder?
You were a good kid, and I think the people out there were searching for a label.
Yeah.
So they wanted to label me, just to put me in a problem.
I think your mom more wanted to label you than anything else. She was she worked for the schools as a teacher, and she had a little training in this. So I think that she was overzealous in her push to get you aid and help and free services. I think she became overzealous and a little bit obsessed with doing that. And again, I didn't see the real need for it, and I didn't really stop it. I wish I did, but it just they have people all of a sudden whispering in your ears. Well, she has this, and she might have that.
So
Okay, so on the contrary of that,
Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah, I know. On the contrary to that,
Well, you just saw her behavior, and you thought.
yeah,
that
yeah,
she had
you
needs.
were just like when let's say for example when we had Justin, right, and we had to go in the middle of the night at 3:00 in the morning, and Bernie and Karen, our neighbors, had to come over to watch you.
Okay.
And I'll never forget how like hysterical Karen was, because you were jumping on the bed, and she was so afraid that you were going to get hurt, and she, you were very hyperactive. You were very hyperactive.
that's why I'm saying, do you think people thought that I had ADHD? Or do you think
Maybe.
that
I
people
never-
just didn't think
I
that
don't
being a
think I
girl
heard
could have been that?
I mean, they
I don't
batted
think I
around
ever
different.
heard
ADD, do you think you ever heard
they
that?
batted around a lot of different things. Now, she's giving you that example. But I would think that a person, let's see, Justin is going to be 17, you're 20, you were 3.5 years old, your parents left at midnight, it got the neighbors over to take care of you and got you up at midnight.
Do you think I was just excited?
Because you were having a baby brother. Now, I don't think that jumping around and being excited is an odd thing for a 3.5-year-old. For those half hour you probably did it, and then probably fell asleep. And also the people that came over were at the time, about 70 years old, 68 or 70.
All right, so maybe you better take the interview
I
over,
think, in my
Because
opinion, they would.
I'm gonna leave.
And again, in my opinion, I just think you were acting normal and
Right.
being a jumpy kid. But we just have a
Okay,
difference.
so how? Okay,
I
so
just- I mean-
what do you think then, Mom? What do
Nothing.
you?
I thought you were a very bright kid.
The question-
I know you were a very bright kid.
Do you think I have a learning disability, or did you ever think
no,
I had one?
didn't think you had a learning
So
disability.
do you just think I was a
It was a
troubled
behavior
kid?
problem. I
Okay.
think it was more of a behavior problem, meaning just hyperactivity. Now, a lot of kids, at 2 and 3, always jump and play and this, but yours was more excessive. It stood out. It would be in where you would be in the classroom and move to somebody else's stuff, or one. You were very social, okay, and then at sometimes it was inappropriately social, like with the blocks or with this or that or that. Now, I'm not saying that that's a strange thing. Lots of kids want to tear down blocks,
Okay.
But what we kept hearing
From
over
other
different
people?
from
From who?
from the teachers, and then it all went into the other parents would be whispering, that you were.
So it was a lot of rumors.
I think it gave you a stigma that something was wrong, with you, and yet you're bright as can be. You were bold as can be. You were vivacious and outgoing, and you learned how to walk and talk in no time at all. I mean, but.
So a long time ago, I remember two women came over to the house a lot. And I remember playing games with them and doing stuff. Who were they?
Right.
Do you remember who they are?
I forget their names. Did she have an Ann that came over once?
Yeah.
The first one was Angelica. The young,
But she was at
No, she
school,
was
you
out-
said.
she
I
was
mean,
at
like, who
school.
came to the home.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they
there
came
was
to
a
the
lady
home, too.
for sensory issues, an
Yeah.
OT. She was an occupational therapist, and she would give you clay so that you can feel it and mold it. And I mean, I really didn't know what the point of that
You didn't
was,
think it
but
was
but that is something they do in education
They
for
were very
kids.
nice. They took your time. They talked very nice to you. You were always very polite, and we were being told that it's beneficial. Blah blah blah. I just think it carried on way too long, and I just didn't see the need for it. Now, and I'm not saying these people are not needed. I'm saying that I don't think that you
Needed
it
it.
as much as you received.
But there were a lot of times, or quite a few, I'll say, when we had the See It teacher there or whoever was supporting you, and you would go, somewhere else, and we'd find that you did something in the sink, or you.
You know what you used to like doing? You used to like
very
playing with the
mischievous.
creams and squirting soaps on your hands, excessive. But
That sensory
So you think
imagery.
it wasn't something it wasn't like a learning aspect thing. It wasn't like I had
No, you
trouble
were
with
smart.
something.
I think you were smart.
Did I have any trouble with any sort of
Never.
like classes that you
Never.
remember? You have no
Never.
idea what was challenging for me?
Nothing.
Do you know?
I don't remember.
Nothing. The only thing I remember
think so.
is, and it was just because of the times, Velcro came out.
What I
which
like.
was no, and that was wrong on society's part, because they made Velcro sneakers so that parents can just easily put their
So
sneakers
why
on.
are you saying that I didn't learn how to tie my
Because
shoes?
then we had to realize that we had to teach
Well,
our children
that was
how
the
to
weirdest thing
how
about
to
you and your
change.
son.
Right, we
you
had
and
to
your brother took a long time to learn to tie simple
tie
things like
shoes.
that. But that was
Yeah,
the
I
thing
did.
at the
But it
time.
made
I don't think I
sense.
learned until I was in 5th
Yeah, but
grade.
you know why? Like I said,
The rabbit ears
you would have
and
these
stuff.
$250 patent leather shoes that had
Yeah, you got a lot of money.
Velcro shoes and Velcro sneakers. That's the only reason.
But that was what was in.
You know,
That was
well,
what was in,
whatever.
and they made that
But,
easier for parents. But it ends up being
But I hardly
not
think
an
you could be
advantage.
judged as having
So-
difficulties because of that.
So I'm guessing that you would say that the most helpful people, like when this whole process was happening, were the like aides.
Yeah,
They were really
teachers.
nice.
They're
You would
called
say that
See It
they're-
teachers.
They were
which
nice to
stand
you,
for-
and you got along very well. They loved to come over and see you. I mean,
Yeah.
things like that.
They were
You weren't
special education teachers.
You never gave anybody a problem.
So they were special ed.
They were
They
special
definitely were.
education teachers, right? They're called See It teachers, SEIT, and it stands for Special Education Interim Teacher or something like that. But what I'm saying is that you just were a little more active, I guess. I'm forgetting what I'm saying.
You know what's really funny?
know?
We were learning that apparently a lot of like girls are possibly diagnosed with ADHD because they're just active and like they want to do things and stuff, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's ADHD.
Right.
And it's like a stigma to the world that people that girls can't be active or something that, and I'm guessing that you might think that possibly works with me, that I was just an active
We
kid
didn't
because I
even
did a lot of
think of that.
sports.
Well, you
We just
thought
think
you
that-
thought of yourself when you were younger as a tomboyish kind
Well,
of.
I'm still am.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
still
yeah.
the same.
You were always into sports, and you were and you did very well at every sport there was. I mean, you tried
There's
everything
just an
from
active
soccer,
kid.
I think-
active kid, and very athletic, and you'd like to be.
I just
running and going and having fun like
I
a
think
kid.
that you personally, and again, these people have a wonderful job. They're great people that come out and help children. I just think that you were overdiagnosed, and that's all I'm saying.
But
That's
in
fair.
reality, there
I think
were
it-
times where you could have been found disruptive. Disruptive
Sure.
meaning where everybody has to be quiet, and you would maybe talk or laugh or do something else.
Was there like
You
a
know?
program in was there like a schedule of when I had to like do things by? Did I have like a program?
We gave you, well, first of all, we started you in
Like an education
preschool,
program?
in a preschool, and for 2 years you were in a preschool there, and where we had the luxury of giving that to you, so you would learn even more.
Well, I meant like an IEP. Do you know what an IEP
yeah,
is?
and
So-
an individual education plan.
Okay,
Right,
exactly.
so
That's exactly what it
that's
is,
for-
Mom.
right, a
So
special
I'm saying,
education person.
did I have that? Did you ever go through the process of me having one? Did I ever get like any of that? I mean, if I didn't,
I
then I
know
didn't.
we did for Justin, but I don't
Justin
think
had
for
one.
you.
Really? Okay.
Justin didn't need it either for that. He needed for, this issue.
Well, I know he had like a weird soft spot esque thing. I don't know if that had anything to do with it. Like remember that thing he had wear the helmet?
It's just
That was,
had to do with the
cranium. That was the
flat spot. They
yeah.
But that wasn't
Brain.
anything to do with
No, that
something
wasn't a
brain.
disability.
psychological or
anything.
brain issues or anything.
I guess too.
I just think you were an active kid and you were good at what you did, and a lot of it was misconstrued and resented by other parents.
So you both would say that I don't actually have a learning disability now.
No way.
I know you think it's no. I know
think
for a
you're
fact it's a
extreme.
no.
Extremely intelligent.
I
Look
don't
at
think
you.
you ever had one.
You,
I don't
Tara,
think
you
I
would
did,
sit down
but
and
that's
do
why I was
your work
confused.
when you were 5 years old or 4 years old, all the way up till now you're.
So it
21
wasn't
If
years
the thing
school, it
that
was just
basically,
active?
if the thing
Yeah,
that,
you're active.
if some of the
Active.
things that's,
Hyperactive.
if you think back to what was said, the main thing that started this whole thing was a report from the school
About
that I
me
think
knocking
was
blocks
that
over?
You knocked
Yeah,
over
that was what
somebody's.
started
Excuse
it.
me. It was described by I think a teacher that
It was a
probably needed
Montessori
their own
school.
psychological help.
And Montessori
as
was
you
very,
destroyed someone's project.
Yeah, and they thought that
That was the term. So when I
calm
heard
down.
you destroy, so I'm not unhappy. I'm not angry.
I
I'm
know,
just
but you're
saying
talking-
when you hear that was a transcript and it was written, it was being done and said you destroyed some project. I might think that you're in college or you're some major lab work being done and you sabotaged it or whatever. You knocked over a pile of blocks.
Okay,
You understand what
but
I'm
I
saying?
will
I
tell
get what-
you.
I
Tara,
understand. I
there are
understand.
2.5
times-
years old.
But I absolutely
I know
agree
you
with
didn't like it.
Brian.
Well, I didn't like the way it was
Listen.
phrased and how it was presented as a really a destructive, like a destructive thing that you did, and you need to be looked at.
He was very upset about that.
I thought it was
But I have to
ridiculous.
tell you,
And that
but
got
you
Mom
did it
to call
more.
people.
But you did it more. It wasn't just once in a blue moon thing. You did it like constantly, trying to get into other people's spaces and